Hi, friends. It is I, host Eric, here with my beloved Rachel. We were having a pleasant conversation, and I thought, I wonder why we aren't recording this pleasant conversation, as it seems to fall under the general category of 2020 review, 2021 look ahead, which is appropriate topically for the time of year. So, first of all, the topic I want to sort of ask Rachel a few questions is Rachel's last 12 months. So the first 4 months we lived out here together in this little room. We had no access to the inside house. It was pretty tight quarters, which is not something I thought took seriously at all when my dad suggested this was going to be a problem at first, you know.
Me neither.
But it turns out we need a little bit more opportunity to have our own space. But then you went back to New York. In February, we went to Hawaii together. And then sometime around April or so, I guess,
Yeah.
we finally hammered out a medication problem that was giving us a lot of difficulties. And since then, things have been pretty golden. Since that point, I think perhaps you've had the opportunity to pay attention to a question like, how has this been different an experience than you thought when you first, like at some point you thought to yourself, I would probably date that guy if he asked me out or something. Is this what you thought it would be like?
Oh my god. It's better. It's better than I thought it would be like.
I'm not as much of a dick as you thought.
Oh my gosh, you're not a dick at all. I found you intimidating, but even when I was in New York, it was very easy for me to talk to you. So, I felt comfortable right away. Now that I'm on the right medication, and I feel like myself, like every day, it's just so pleasant. I mean, it's great being in a relationship with you. You're so sensitive, but without being like overbearing. And it's like just a very happy mix. Yeah.
Cool. I echo those sentiments. I didn't really have any expectations in the sense that I kind of knew what I didn't want to have to tolerate, and just operated my normal irrational optimism, assuming everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, part of TwFP's shifting identity and composition over the course of the last year is that you've become the matriarch, so to speak. Now, I don't think that people view you nearly as much as a mother figure as they perhaps did my previous girlfriend, because you're a lot younger looking than her, and you are actually a lot younger than her, but you're even more younger looking. And I think that you comprise sort of a bridge between me and an audience that consistently is substantially younger than me, and a substantial amount of which comprises like people in their 20s even. Now, you're 35, but aside from your own role in changing the dynamics of things, how have you noticed dynamics shifted over the course of the last year, either in terms of what we're doing or the community or
Well, you said that you mentioned to me one time that people come and go, and I have seen that. Even with people whom I thought were going to stay for a while. I can't think of the names right now, but if I saw them, I'd be like, "Oh wow, it's been a while." But we're constantly getting new people in the mix too, so it's constantly like refreshing itself, because there's we're continually getting people who are asking questions legitimately about typology, while sometimes there's people who, just want to talk.
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's an evolving present in terms of cognitive function, which continue to develop as an understanding area. I continue to get better at typing people. Rachel gets better at helping me type people and understanding as well. But the thing is, in general, as a topic of understanding, everybody's understanding is better now than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
To the extent that they've been engaged in the same conversations I have with cognitive functions around the channel.
Yes.
I feel like I'm pretty damn close to having a right on mapped modeled understanding of things, but I'm not sure how clear that's going to link to sort of a airtight protocol to typing people, simply because people are open systems. They're capable of gaming tests.
There are. I mean, I've been fooled by some people for sure.
But the thing is about the composition and shifting identity of TwFP is that we haven't really grown a whole shit ton in the course of the last year in terms of subscribers, and this has probably been the course of the last couple of years. Actually, it's kind of stalled out right around 6,000. We watched yesterday the Curtis's video in which he jokes about C.S. Joseph and other channels measuring themselves in TwFPs. Like I'm about 6 TWFPs or 7, because everybody's got more subs than I do, even if they started way after.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about general perception of the year looking back versus ours looking forward. I think in general people think of 2020 as being a terrible year, and it certainly was a terrible year for TI. But Rachel and I, looking back on it, think if we were going to get stuck in kind of a doldrums, which we've been in for much of the last year, and after February, we've been stuck in this kind of COVID lockdown area. It's been a pretty damn good year to get stuck in. Pretty comfortable.
Once my medications were all sorted out, which was a huge deal, really, of course there were ups and downs because the whole year was ups and downs, but we were able to resolve them really quickly, and I found, to my surprise anyway, how well we've really lived together. I never really questioned it. I just kind of lived it.
Right.
But we really do live very well together, and I have heard opposite stories, but I can only say that I am so grateful for the time that we did spend together. And we were sort of forced to by some lockdowns and shutdowns, but we handled it really well.
Well, I think it's interesting. I've heard people say before that it's not healthy to fight a lot in a relationship, but it's also not healthy to never fight. But Rachel and I never fight. Now that she's...
Yeah.
None of the medication has been resolved.
Yes.
I don't think we've had a single fight.
Oh,
We've had a couple of moments of, I guess, like jaggedness between us.
Yeah.
But that's about it, and they never evolve into a fight. So I don't really buy that argument that you should have to fight occasionally in order to be in a healthy relationship. I think it might be true for people who don't fight ever because they're avoiding dealing with shit.
Yeah.
But we are not avoiding dealing with shit. We don't fight ever because we never avoid dealing with shit.
Yeah, it's true. We do hold ourselves accountable.
We never avoid dealing with shit, dealing with the relationship.
Yeah.
We both constantly avoid dealing with shit that we don't want to do. It's like practical stuff.
No, but, I think we're both prone to put the relationship first ahead of those things even, so
yeah.
It works out well, and it's been, my 2020 has been one that I'll look back on and be grateful for in odd ways. There were testing times, there were times where I did feel depressed because I felt that, the whole health theater stuff really got me down, the facts of the matter.
If you value TI as an absolute value, or even as a tool function, instrumental value, it's gonna weigh heavy on you, the refusal of anybody to engage this issue logically, which is to say, I'm not talking about what their position is. I'm talking about the refusal to be held to the basic standard of reciprocal burdens. Something has to test out beyond this specific instance in which you're applying it. Anyway, that's the most depressing thing to me about 2020. But
No, but we were able to bounce back from it, and we gave each other time too. We overall, in the whole spectrum of things, we handled it very well.
and I would say I've watched as much or more good media, watched and listened to as much or more good media in the past year as the whole rest of my life combined.
Yeah, me too.
We have really,
Really?
found some gems.
And
Music
music
too.
too. Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten a lot better as a songwriter in, of course, the last couple of years, and I feel like I'm close to putting that together. So anyway, let's go on to the New Year's resolutions. I don't normally make resolutions, New Year's resolutions. I don't like them conceptually in theory because they ask of a person to again have resolve, to take a single path and to follow it consistently over time. I have a lot of trouble picking a single path that is so valuable that it's worth following over a course of time, even when I don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like when I don't feel like something, I'm feeling unmotivated to do it, I'm feeling uninspired or whatever. No matter how good the path is or the idea is, I'm kind of a slave to my meh. So I have to take that into account. Maybe that's making excuses for myself, but regardless, I do have something of a resolution for this year, which is I'd like to more successfully manage my Adderall consumption such that I can find the sweet spot of getting stuff done without losing myself to just doing what I want to do right now. And to have some larger frames to refer back to that are more meaningful than just, well, I didn't feel like it, or I did feel like it. So we are, after all, creating and maintaining a discursive environment, which is to say, mostly I live stream, and I'm a live streamer.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a lot of uploaded videos, but mostly we live stream and engage with people live in the chat. Naturally, that kind of environment is one of the most difficult to sustain a healthy environment while concurrently tolerating some diversity. So, I think the live stream photography with people is fairly unique in that I encourage people to come in and to critique me, to offer negations and so forth. Mm-hmm. But it also means that there's some people who are fairly battly, fighty, and it may take a little bit of time before I get rid of them if they're too abrasive or too unpleasant. One thing I've learned over the course of the last year is I need to make sure the discursive environment is maximally enjoyable for everybody, foremost. Which means that if somebody wants to negate and contradict and be attacky against me, a certain amount of that is fine, but it's got to conform to certain sort of protocols, like if in fact it's not a fair exchange of ideas. In other words, if the person who's attacking me isn't also subject to critique on the equivalent grounds. In other words, if I can't say, okay, I just proved you wrong about that, right? And they go, yeah, okay, you win the point. They can't do that, and they just shift on to some new attack. Well, they've got infinite possible points where they can attack, and nothing ever gets resolved. Those people I'm not going to leave around for very long anymore. And primarily I think that's ESFPs. Every ESFP that I've ever identified around the channel has ultimately done the same thing. They get really into it at first, they like it a lot, then they get adversarial towards it, then they get reconciliatory towards it, they start having relationships with people around the thing, and they keep running into the same problems, which is, this is fundamentally a community where we're talking about cognitive functions and they're talking out their ass. They get more and more angry and spiteful and start becoming oppositional towards my entire frame of reference, and then try to section off a group of my people to go start their own little stupidity cult. Well, of course, it's never worked in the past, and it's not going to work this time either, in the sense that the problem that the ESFP faces is this is a metaphysical ecosystem that we're talking about here, the internet.
Mm-hmm.
This video is all about the words that we're saying, not about jumping our BMX bikes. And you can't sustain a community simply with negationary energy without a central evil figure to negate. So since I'm not engaging with that ESFP's little side community, it won't ever sustain itself since it's born and raised of opposition to me.
Right.
So in general, I'm going to err a little bit more on the side of environmental maintenance and a little less on the side of preservation of free expression. I'm not at any risk of undervaluing free expression, so
Yeah.
I think I need to prioritize everyone's comfort a little bit more. Ontological versus behavioral critiques. And ultimately this is about that somewhat. It's like if somebody's making, it's just like in a regular relationship. If I want to critique Rachel's behavior because there's something that bugs me that she did, then I can point that out and we can talk about it, and either I'm at fault for being sensitive or maybe she should change the behavior depending on how it plays out, okay? But if I say, you're so messy, then I'm not critiquing her behavior, I'm critiquing her being. I'm saying you are a person who persistently and consistently exists in a world that is contrary to my expectations. Namely, you are messy, and I don't like that. Well, so that's an ontological critique. Mm-hmm. You left your bowl here, can you put it over there? That's a behavioral critique / request. You are messy is an ontological thing. The same thing happens in the stream. People come in and they can make legitimate critiques about what I'm saying, but those who want to critique me most and what I'm saying most never reference what I'm actually saying about cognitive functions.
Yeah.
They critique the idea of cognitive functions, the frame. They critique me as a person and my motivations. They insist I'm too full of myself or arrogant. They critique my FE display, but they don't actually critique what I'm saying. Those who do are always welcome. To those who want to engage me with the ideas and say, you said this, but you said this here, it appears to contradict, Eric. I'm happy to reconcile that contradiction, either admit it contradicts, say I choose this one, not that one, explain why it contradicts, all that kind of stuff is fine, because it's talking about what I'm actually saying. But I've been facing a lot more ontological kind of attack that's just designed to delegitimize me without addressing what I'm actually saying. So that kind of shit is going to be next. That's my hope for a resolution, so to speak, for the year in general, for the environment. Now, looking forward, I do have some plans as well. I'm going to launch my presidential campaign into February. I'll start that process, or mid-February start the process, and hope to launch no more than maybe a month after Inauguration Day or something. So I've been thinking about it, still thinking about it, how I'm going to do that. And as we get into February, I'll start turning my attention, a majority of my attention, towards details related to that. I already do have a campaign fund. I already have a web page, Eric Strauss for President, that I renewed. So ready to go on that, but it's going to be a slow beginning, slow launch, and we'll get rolling as we can. I got to still wait for sort of the country to unlock,
Yeah.
B, making music together. Well, the longer I've been with Rachel, the more I realize that she potentially is a very talented addition to my songs and can make everything better in the same way that Spacey could, which is to say, things are much more appealing when you have a singer and an instrument player, backup singer, than just a guy singing songs on the guitar, especially if the person's a girl, especially if they're a pretty girl, especially if they're a young-looking pretty girl. That really helps.
Well, thank you.
And additionally, I at first underestimated your vocal skills. So the fact is, once you're very familiar with something, you're quite good at singing it, but it takes you a while to get familiar enough with it. Practice makes perfect. So we're currently working on this song called I'm So Sad, and we're going to record Rachel's as the main vocals in that, and then I'll do the background vocals. And I think it's going to come out quite good. I'm excited about it. I think it has more potential for broader success if we make a good video that features Rachel, me playing in the background more. You
That
know?
would be fun too.
So
I like making videos, so
that'd be exciting.
Yeah.
In general, I'd like my time management to be better this year. I want, in other words, if I'm going to be, it's fine. It doesn't mean work more. It means when I work on stuff, have it be more purposed, and probably means live stream a little less. It doesn't mean try to get yourself to work when you're tired or something.
Yeah.
It's very important for me to manage my SI time management well too. Make sure I eat, make sure I sleep, make sure I drink enough liquids, make sure I bathe, stuff like that.
Yeah. I have to do that too.
When my SI feels like I'm on top of it, I feel like I'm on top of everything. When I feel like my SI is out of control because I'm too whacked out or something, then I feel like I'm not on top of anything. Resource maximization. Part of time management means when I do work, try to have it be effective. So a bad example of me failing to do this. I made that anime video earlier because I was excited to just sort of rank them and talk about them. And I said to myself, now if you're going to do this well, Eric, do it well. Get your basic video, then edit it, inserting images from Google Images into the video, and edit out the ums and the ahs, etc. And you might actually have a video that's got some legs, because you're talking about subjects that a lot of people are interested in. When I was done with the immediate video, I said, that was pretty smooth, pretty good. I moved through it pretty quickly. I'll just upload it. Well, that's the kind of shit I got to stop doing. But at the same time, the reason I do that is I have a good, well-founded fear of sitting on a pile of finished stuff that never goes up because it's never quite
good enough, or
yeah, right, or never quite done, or never quite whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge for me, and this is one area in which I have to improve. That brings us to the troubling world of goals. Rachel, do you have any real goals?
not that people would consider to be goals. Like, I just always have a goal of like making sure that I take care of myself, just in general. I guess like SI stuff too, and check in with my feelings every once in a while. That's one of my goals, is to not rush to say yes or no to something. Like, if I really don't know how I feel about something in the moment, I should really pause and then give an answer.
I think we would both benefit from each other saying to the other person, check your FI. Like, at one time, I had a question. I was asking Taylor some advice about something. He said to me, what does your NI say? And I had the NI answer just popped right into my head. I didn't like it, so I rejected it, of course, and went with what I wanted the answer to be instead, which was, of course, stupid of me. But that's not the point. The point is, both of us have this tendency to forget about the fact that we do have some capacity to know what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if we practice it, we can learn to identify what we want better.
Yeah.
That could be a goal
That's
for
my
us.
goal.
That's
Yeah.
a good goal. Troubling world of goals is, if you, the more specific you are in articulating what your goal is, the more possible it is to use TI to lock you into specific courses of action.
Yeah.
You specified you wanted this goal, so that means you have to do this. So I like to have vague goals because I don't want to be penned in that fashion. Now, you might say president is not a very vague goal. It actually is kind of a vague goal. I'm running for president, and it's not entirely clear what that entails. So in that sense, it gives me room to run for president as successfully as I can, and it's a very meetable goal because exactly what that entails is not articulated in advance. So if I decide to try traveling to this place and speaking to that group of people, nobody's going to be able to say, well, that doesn't count as running for president. As long as I'm genuinely running for president, even if I take a different kind of approach to it, people will go, well, you were serious, you did do it, and you took it seriously and everything. I will hope and suspect, I even suspect, crazy as this may sound, that it'll become rather successful in not a super long time. If I do a couple of things right, it really only takes one thing that briefly gets the attention of a vast number of people to suddenly be a significant player in something. External and unanticipated vectors. So I was hoping to make kind of a late run for president in 2020. COVID and my mom together kind of put a stop to that. So first it was my mom. My dad really needed my help with my mom. I moved back here. I broke up with that ex-girlfriend. And it was clear I wasn't going to be free to do it until my mom's situation was resolved. And so I put it on hold for that. Next thing we know, COVID comes around. Now my mom's eventually gets put into a nursing home, but now we got COVID. Before I know it, it's definitely not going to happen in 2020. So I put that down to, act of God, the fates, whatever. Sometimes external unanticipated vectors come into play, but I tend to think of them as factors of the slabs. The slabs wanted me to wait for 2024 because everybody had to get Biden out of their system. It was like, everybody who hated Trump was like, now we get to redo and we get to have
Yes,
Hillary this time.
yes.
Except it's not Hillary, it's Biden, and that's fine because, I don't know. Anyway,
It's nicer.
and I think I needed this time to bond with Rachel, get to know how well we work together as a partnership before the world requires more of us than it does currently.
Yeah.
Right now, the
That's
world doesn't
important
require a
thing.
whole hell of a lot of us, but I expect that to change. And so, this has been our we have been afforded an incubator as a relationship.
Yeah.
We've been afforded the opportunity to really get solid with each other without a lot of stressors from external or unanticipated factors.
It's true.
Is that the last thing? Yeah. Any other things you'd like to mention here in our 2020-2021 recap / look ahead video?
No, I think that pretty much covers it for me.
Okay, cool. So, rock on, TWFP.
Yeah.
And don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.